never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot.
That was the powerful congressional testimony of Viola Fletcher, one of the last living survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, fighting for justice 100 years later. She passed away at the age of 111 last November, but the fight for reparations continues, thanks to our next guest, who gives a blueprint for what the country can do to right its wrongs in his new amazing book, Redeem a Nation, the century-long battle to restore the soul of America. Please welcome civil rights attorney and my friend, Damario Solomon-Simmons.
Good to see you, Freddie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This book is one of the best books on our nation's history, which is American history, that I have ever read.
Oh, thank you.
So congratulations.
Oh, appreciate you.
It is part memoir,
Yes.
part historical account of the Tulsa Race Massacre,
Yes.
which even after 105 years, I've learned, is still not widely known in this country.
That's right.
You grew up in the Greenwood area
Yes.
of Tulsa, and you yourself didn't learn of the massacre until college.
That's right.
So for those who don't know the story, and there are many, tell us about what happened on that day of racial violence.
Yeah. Well, Greenwood at the time and in history was the most organized, prosperous black community in the history of this country. It had about 11,000 residents. It was about 38 blocks, 4 square miles. And over a 36-hour period, 1,550 homes were destroyed. Bombs were dropped from the air. It was the worst act of domestic terrorism in the history of this country. It's the first time that bombs have been dropped by planes on a U.S. city. You had over 3,000 people that were disappeared. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know if they were put in mass graves, thrown into the river. 8,000 people were homeless overnight. And it created over $250 million in property damage alone. And it's something that we have dealt with and continue to suffer from to this day.
The massacre is widely referred to as the fall of Black Wall Street, right? But that's not the entire picture.
Right.
One of your chapters is titled, Greenwood is Still Burning.
Right.
What does that mean?
What that means, again, the massacre happened. It had all that devastation that I just talked about. But when the fires ended, and those who did survive, they didn't get their insurance payments. You know, these people were very sophisticated. Hundreds and hundreds of insurance claims were not paid. Money that was in their banks because their bank books burnt up. They couldn't get their money out the banks to rebuild. So it's very difficult for people to rebuild. And once people were able to rebuild, and then things are going well, then here comes urban renewal, where they built a highway through the system. And this is something that happened to black communities across this country, as I talk about in the book. And so that just put us back down to zero. We had to start back over again. And today, because no reparations, no compensation was ever paid to people like my living survivor, the one living survivor, Mother Leslie Benefield Randall, who is 111 years old.
Yeah.
This thing is still going on today. North Tulsa, where I'm from, the Greenwood area, it's vastly different than South Tulsa. And so this one we're talking about, Greenwood is still burning. It's never been repaired from 1921.
Wow. Now, in 2020, you yourself brought a case for reparations for the remaining living survivors. Using a legal strategy, I thought this was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Using a legal strategy you saw in a case against Johnson & Johnson.
Yes.
And you used Oklahoma's public nuisance law.
Yes.
Break that down for people.
Yeah, we were looking for an opportunity to try to rebuild a case, because the case that was done in the early 2000s by my mentor, Charles Ogletree, was dismissed in federal court. We knew we couldn't get back in federal court. And a public nuisance is a theory in Oklahoma and about 17 other states that says if a nuisance is continuing, if harm is continuing, then there is no statute of limitations.
Right.
And because of the Johnson & Johnson, the opioid cases, they were able to get a verdict from the 1980s based upon opioids that were still causing harm. We said we can do the same thing. And we analogize like an oil spill. If an oil spill happens, you remember the BP oil spill that happened?
Yes,
all that
and all the water.
All the water, oil. Well, that was coming out. That's the nuisance. But once they plugged it and the oil stopped coming out of the pipe, that didn't stop the harm.
Right.
You know, the ground was still polluted, the ocean was still polluted, et cetera. It's the same thing with the massacre. If you destroy communities, kill people, and devastate businesses, and you never repair it, the nuisance is ongoing. And that was our theory. We felt really good. In May 2nd, 2022, our district judge said we could move forward. Then she changed her mind in August, and our Oklahoma Supreme Court dismissed us out, unfortunately, in June of 2024.
So then you turned to the Department of Justice
Yes.
Under President Biden at the time, but they determined that there was no avenue for criminal prosecution. What was your next step, and how are you continuing to fight for these families? Because I know you're continuing to fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
And
one of those lawyers.
Yes, right. And this book is an extension of that work. You know, the Department of Justice, they did do a report the first time in the history of this country,
Right.
a report on the massacre where they said, yes, this actually happened. And it was state sanctioned, but they didn't bring charges. Then we created something called Project Greenwood, where we were trying to take and make sure there was policies and programs for descendants in the community. And that turned into our Mayor Monroe Nichols, creating the Greenwood Trust and a private $105 million trust that is supposed to be operational in June.
Right.
And so we're trying to work with him to make sure that actually happens and make sure our clients and our survivors and our descendants actually receive that reparations that they deserve.
So the fight for reparations for Black Americans has been met with huge resistance. I talk about it on our show all the time. There is a photo in the book that was taken in the aftermath of the massacre. There it is right there.
Yeah.
That you return to when you are in need of strength.
Yes.
Why does this particular picture mean so much to you?
Man, because, you know, doing this work, and I've been doing this work almost 30 years,
Yeah.
it's a lot of heartache, it's a lot of loss, it's a lot of odds, obstacles, and opposition. A lot of times I want to give up, I'm distressed, I'm depressed. But I look at this photo taken just days after the massacre, and that's to the right is Attorney B.C. Franklin, the father of Dr. John Hope Franklin. To the left is Attorney I.W. Spears and their assistant. This is a tent that they set up. Their law office had been burnt down, and they were practicing law days after the massacre, filing lawsuits against the very people that just burned down their community. So when I'm feeling low and I'm feeling like I want to give up, which that happens,
Yes.
I look at this photo and I say, if these gentlemen can be out here as Black lawyers days after a massacre fighting for their community, I can withstand anything.
Yes, yes, you can. Yes. See why I love this book?
Yeah.
Now, what is so striking in the book is the resilience of the survivors that
Yes.
comes across, who were part of this lawsuit. Hughes Van Ellis, let's say their name, Hughes Van Ellis Sr., known as Uncle Red.
Uncle Red, my man.
Yes, Viola Fletcher, known as Mother Fletcher.
Yes.
And Leslie Benningfield Randall, known as Mother Randall.
Yes.
Who remains the last living survivor of the massacre. Now, I understand you grew very close to them. How do you want them to be remembered?
Oh man, as fighters. You know, these people, literally when I sat down with them and said, hey, we're gonna try to bring this lawsuit, I can't guarantee anything, would you like to be a part of this? They all said, listen, we're old, we don't really need anything, but if we can be a catalyst for our community and our families, put us on the front lines. These people came to every court hearing, we had many of them, and those hearings were hours, and they stayed in court. They
Over 100 years old.
100 years old. Uncle Red was 103 when he passed. Mother Fletcher was 111, and like I said, Leslie Benefield Randall, she is 111. Yeah. They traveled back and forth to D.C. We went and met with the DOJ several times.
Congressional testimony?
We met with the vice president. She even went over to Ghana, West Africa, Uncle Red and Viola Fletcher. And so I just want people to realize that these are true American heroes.
Yeah.
These are individuals who saw the worst of America. There's a lot of things that happened today. They saw that. They saw discrimination. They were domestic workers. They went through World War II. They went through the Depression. They went through the massacre. They went through urban renewal. And yet they still believed in the promise of America and that this country can do right by Black people.
Now, we are on the brink of the country's 250th anniversary.
Yes.
You stress in the book the need for a repair
Yes.
of America's soul.
Right.
So how can our country meet this moment and begin the work?
We begin the work by repairing the harms that started this country. This country, unfortunately, was started on the harm of enslavement and the harm of the genocide of the indigenous people. We have to repair those harms. We have to be very clear about that. We have to get away from this anti-Blackness that we're seeing in so much forms of public life today. And we have to bring people together, but first by doing what's right and making sure people have comprehensive the things that they need in life and repair the harm by making sure they have the wealth that they need, they have the health care that they need, and their histories and their identities are not erased.
Right.
And that is very, very important. One thing I talk about in the book, people obviously they want justice, they want compensation, but a lot of my clients, they want acknowledgement. They want to be acknowledged that what they've experienced was a wrong, and they want people to acknowledge them as people. And they see what's happening to other folks, and they want to make sure that they are treated equally. You know, we do reparations repair work every day in the court system.
Yeah.
We do it anytime someone has a simple car accident, and
Yes.
they break their leg, they hurt their car, they miss time from work. When you pay for that time off from work, you pay to repair the car, you pay for the pain and suffering, you pay for the medical bills, that's reparations, that's repair. Right. And we do it every single day, and we just want it to be done for those who suffered the greatest harm.
Keep up the good trouble, counselor.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I appreciate you.
Our thanks to Damario Solomon-Simmons. His new book, Redeem a Nation, is out now. You can scan the QR code on our screen to purchase the book, and everyone in our studio audience is going home with a copy.